The morning sun rose over New Busan like it had for 20 years. The golden light touched the green fields where corn and wheat grew tall. Hyunwoo Kim stood on his office balcony, drinking coffee and watching the farmers start their day. He smiled as children ran to school, their laughter echoing through the streets. New Busan was home to 50,000 people. They had come from Earth 2 decades ago to build a new life on this empty planet. The world had no name back then, just a number. Kepler 442c. Now it was their world, filled with farms, towns, and dreams. "Another beautiful day," said Bo-Ram Lee as she joined him on the balcony. She was the head of farming operations and Hyunwoo's oldest friend. Her hands were dirty from checking the morning crops. "The best kind," Hyunwoo replied. He had been the colony administrator for 10 years. Before that, he served in Earth's military, but those days felt like a distant memory. Here, his biggest worries were crop yields and school budgets. Bo-Ram pointed to the northern fields. "The new wheat is growing faster than we expected. We might have enough surplus to trade with the mining colonies next year." Hyunwoo nodded. Trade was important. New Busan grew food, and other colonies mined metals or built ships. Everyone helped everyone else. It was a good system. The communication device on his desk beeped. Nari Choi's voice came through, sounding worried. "Administrator Kim, please come to the communications center. We have something strange on the sensors." Hyunwoo and Bo-Ram exchanged looks. Strange things were rare on New Busan. They hurried, through the administration building and down to the communications center in the basement. Nari stood in front of a large screen showing dots of light. She was young, only 25, but she knew the equipment better than anyone. Her face was pale as she pointed at the display. "These appeared an hour ago," she said. 12 ships coming from deep space. They're big, Administrator. Much bigger than our cargo vessels." Taemin Park, the head of security, was already there. He was a serious man who always expected trouble. "Could be traders," he said, but his voice suggested he didn't believe it. Hyunwoo studied the screen. The ships were moving in perfect formation like soldiers marching. "Have you tried to contact them?" "Yes, sir." No response on any frequency. Nari's fingers moved across her controls. "They'll reach our space in 6 hours." "Maybe their communication system is different," Bo-Ram suggested. "We've never met aliens before. This could be first contact." Taemin shook his head. 12 military ships don't come for a friendly chat. We should prepare our defenses." Hyunwoo almost laughed. New Busan had no real defenses. They had some, old mining lasers and a few security shuttles. Against 12 unknown ships, they would be helpless. "Let's not panic," he said. "Nari, keep trying to reach them. Use every language we have in the database. Taemin, quietly alert the security teams, but don't scare the civilians yet." The next few hours crawled by like days. The alien ships came closer and their size became clear. Each one was as long as New Busan's main street. Their hulls were dark metal covered in strange symbols. Nari finally got a response. The main screen filled with the image of a creature that made everyone step back. It had gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes like black stones. When it spoke, the computer translated its words. "Primitive humans," the creature said. Its voice was cold and harsh. "I am Admiral Vorthak of the Kalari Empire. You will leave this world immediately." Hyunwoo stepped forward. He had dealt with difficult people before, but never anything like this. "I am Administrator Kim of New Busan Colony. We claim this world under the Colonial Settlement Agreement. We're willing to discuss—" "There is nothing to discuss," Vorthak interrupted. "This world belongs to the Kalari Empire now. You have 72 hours to gather your belongings and leave. Any humans remaining after that time will be removed permanently." The screen went black. The communications center fell silent except for the humming of machines. "Removed permanently," Taemin repeated. That sounded like a threat. Bo-Ram's face was red with anger. 20 years we've been here. 20 years of hard work, of building something beautiful. They can't just take it away. Hyunwoo felt old and tired. "Can we evacuate everyone in 72 hours? Nari checked her computer. "Our transport ships can carry maybe 5,000 people. We'd need 15 trips to move everyone, and each trip takes 8 hours to reach the nearest human world." That's impossible, Taimin said. Even if we started right now, we couldn't save half the colony. Hyunwoo walked to the window and looked out at New Busan. Children were playing in the park. Farmers were tending their crops. Shopkeepers were serving customers. None of them knew that their world was about to end. We have to try, he said. Start with the children and the elderly. Load the ships with as many people as possible. For the next day, New Busan became chaos. People packed their most important belongings. Families said goodbye to their homes. The spaceport filled with crying children and worried parents. Yunwoo barely slept. He organized evacuation lists, calmed frightened civilians, and sent desperate messages to Earth asking for help. But Earth was too far away. Even if they sent ships immediately, they wouldn't arrive for months. On the second day, Admiral Vorthak called again. His black eyes seemed amused. You move too slowly, humans. My patience grows thin. We're doing our best, Hyunwoo said. These are families with children. They need time you do not have. Faster or face the consequences. The screen went dark again. Hyunwoo felt helpless rage building in his chest. These aliens had no mercy, no understanding of what they were destroying. By the morning of the third day, they had evacuated 12,000 people. 38,000 remained, including Hyunwoo and most of his staff. They had chosen to stay until the end, helping others escape. Nari was at her post when the sensors screamed warnings. Administrator, the alien ships are moving. They're taking positions above our cities. Hyunwoo ran to the window. High above, dark shapes blocked out the sun. The Kalari ships hung in the sky like storm clouds. His communication device crackled. Vorthak's voice filled the room. Time is finished, humans. You chose to defy the Kalari Empire. Now you face the price of defiance. Wait! Hyunwoo shouted into his microphone. We're still evacuating. Give us more time. But there was no answer. The aliens had decided that New Busan's time was over. High above, the Kalari ships began to glow with deadly light. In minutes, everything the colonists had built would become ash and memory. The beautiful world that had been their home for 20 years was about to die. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Hyunwoo wondered if the Kalari knew what they were really doing. They weren't just destroying a colony. They were making an enemy of humanity itself. The emergency pod drifted through space like a dead leaf in an endless ocean. Inside, Nari Choi floated unconscious, kept alive by failing life support systems. She had been drifting for 6 months since New Busan died. Captain Jin Ho Yoon stood on the bridge of the ECS Indomitable, studying the scanner readings. His patrol ship was returning from a routine mission when they detected the small pod's weak distress signal. Life signs are barely there, reported his medical officer. Whoever's inside won't last much longer. Bring it aboard, Jin-Ho ordered. Fast! 20 minutes later, Jin-Ho watched the medical team work on the unconscious woman. She was thin, almost skeletal, with burns on her hands and face. Her uniform bore the symbols of New Busan Colony. Jin-Ho felt his stomach tighten. New Busan had gone silent 6 months ago. All attempts to contact the colony had failed. Earth Command assumed it was a communication problem, but looking at this dying woman, Jin-Ho suspected something much worse. She's awake, the doctor announced. Nari's eyes opened slowly. They were filled with pain that went deeper than her physical injuries. When she saw Jin-Ho's uniform, she grabbed his arm with surprising strength. You have to tell them, she whispered. Her voice was rough from months of breathing recycled air. You have to tell Earth what they did to us. Tell them what? What happened to New Busan? Nari closed her eyes. When she opened them again, tears ran down her cheeks. They killed everyone. The Kalari killed everyone. Jin-Ho felt cold, despite the warm air on his ship. Who are the Kalari? Aliens. Gray skin, 4 arms, black eyes like sharks. They came with 12 ships and gave us 3 days to leave our world. Nari's voice grew stronger as anger replaced her weakness. 50,000 people, Captain. 50,000 men, women, and children. We couldn't evacuate them all. What happened to the ones who stayed? Nari turned to look at the wall display showing stars. They burned our cities from orbit. I was in the last evacuation ship when they started firing. I watched our home turn to glass and ash. Jinho's hands clenched into fists. He had been a soldier for 20 years, had seen war and death, but the murder of civilians always made his blood boil. How many ships escaped? Maybe 20 pods. Most were destroyed before they could reach hyperspace. Nari looked back at him. I don't know if anyone else survived. You have proof of this? Nari pointed to a small device attached to her belt. Emergency recorder. Everything's on there. The communications with the aliens, the evacuation, the bombardment. All of it. Jinho took the device carefully, as if it contained explosives. In a way, it did. If Nari was telling the truth, this little machine held evidence of the greatest crime in human history. Why? He asked. Why did they do this? Because they could, Nari said simply. Because they thought we were weak and wouldn't fight back. 3 days later, Jinho's ship arrived at Earth. He had spent the journey watching Nari's recordings, and each viewing made him angrier. The Kalari had shown no mercy, no hesitation. They treated human lives like insects to be stepped on. Admiral Sung-Min Kang received Jinho in his office at Fleet Command. Kang was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. He listened without interruption as Jinho reported what they had found. When Jinho finished, Kang was quiet for a long time. Then he asked to see the recordings. The first video showed Administrator Hyun-Woo Kim trying to negotiate with Admiral Vorthak. Jinho watched Kang's face grow hard as the alien dismissed human concerns with cold contempt. The second recording showed the evacuation. Families crying as they left their homes, children asking why they had to go, parents promising they would return someday, knowing it was a lie. The final video was the worst. Nari had recorded it from her escape pod as the Kalari ships opened fire. Brilliant energy beams turned New Busan's cities into furnaces. The beautiful farms where families had lived and worked became seas of molten rock. When it ended, Kang stood and walked to his window. Outside, Earth's orbital shipyards built cargo vessels and exploration ships, tools of peace, not war. How many other colonies have we lost contact with recently? Kang asked. Jinho checked his notes. 4 in the last year. We assumed it was equipment failures or solar storms. Get me Director Mi Young's Song from Colonial Affairs, Kang ordered, and Woo Jin-han from Military Intelligence. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. The meeting room filled quickly. Director Song arrived with files about the missing colonies. Intelligence. Chief Han brought star charts showing alien ship movements. When they watched Nari's recordings, Song covered her face with her hands. 50,000 people, she whispered. How do we tell their families? We don't, Kang said. Not yet. First, we need to know how big this threat is. Han spread his charts on the table. If this Kalari Empire is expanding into human space, New Busan might not be their only target. These other missing colonies could be victims too. How long would it take to investigate? Song asked. Weeks, maybe months, Han replied. But if we're right, more colonies could die while we gather information. Kang studied the charts. Red marks showed the locations of missing colonies. They formed a rough line pointing toward Earth. They're not exploring, he realized. They're advancing, testing our defenses, seeing how we respond. What do we do? Song asked. Kang was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at each person in the room. We prepare for war. War? Song looked shocked. Against aliens we know nothing about? We know enough, Kang said grimly. We know they're killers. We know they think humans are weak. And we know they won't stop until someone stops them. Han nodded. What are your orders, Admiral? Contact every human colony. Tell them to increase their defenses and report any alien contact immediately. Begin emergency production of military vessels, and send scout ships to the missing colonies. I want to know exactly what we're facing. Song stood up. Admiral, with respect, this could start a war that destroys humanity. Kang looked at her steadily. Director, that war already started. The Kalari started it when they murdered New Busan. The only question now is whether we fight back or let them kill us all. After the others left, Kang sat alone with Nari's recordings. He watched the final moments of New Busan again, seeing families torn apart by alien fire. He thought about his own daughter, living on a colony near the frontier. The Kalari had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were weak because they chose peace. They thought a peaceful people couldn't fight. They were about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being capable of war. Kang activated his communication system. "Get me the president. Tell him it's urgent." Outside his window, Earth's peaceful shipyards would soon echo with the sounds of war. The age of human exploration was ending. The age of human vengeance was about to begin. The news reached every human world within days. New Busan was gone. 50,000 people dead. Alien invaders were moving through human space, destroying everything in their path. Do-Yeon Lim watched the reports from her office at the Luna shipyards. She was the chief designer, responsible for creating the cargo ships that carried goods between colonies. Now the president wanted her to build something very different. "War ships," she whispered to herself, looking at the emergency orders on her screen. "They want me to build instruments of death." Her assistant, Jae-won, entered with coffee and a worried expression. "The news reports are getting worse. 3 more colonies have gone silent." Do-Yeon nodded grimly. The Kalari were moving fast, hitting human worlds before anyone could prepare defenses. Earth's scattered fleets were too far away to help. "Show me everything we know about their ships," she ordered. For the next several hours, Do-Yeon studied the recordings from New Busan. The Kalari vessels were sleek and dark, covered in energy shields that glowed purple when active. Their weapons fired concentrated plasma beams that could melt through rock and metal. "Conventional approach won't work," she muttered. "Their shields are too strong." Jae-won looked over her shoulder at the designs. "What if we don't try to fight their strengths? What if we attack their weaknesses?" Do-Yeon raised an eyebrow. "What weaknesses? They destroyed an entire colony without taking any damage." "Exactly. They're overconfident. Look at their formation in the recordings. Perfect military precision, but no creativity. They fight like machines." Do-Yeon studied the battle footage. Again. Jae-won was right. The Kalari moved in textbook formations, used standard tactics. They had clearly defeated many species using the same methods. They expect energy weapons, she realized. Their shields are designed to stop plasma and lasers. What about kinetic weapons, old-fashioned bullets and missiles? Do-Yeon's eyes lit up. Kinetic weapons are primitive technology. They probably haven't faced them in centuries. She began sketching designs. "We could build railguns that fire solid metal slugs. No energy signature for their shields to detect. News arrived that changed everything. General Jae-seok." Oh walked into the shipyard with orders from Earth Command. He was a big man with scars on his hands and the cold eyes of someone who had seen too much war. "Admiral Kang wants a fleet," he announced. 200 ships built for one purpose, destroying the Kalari Empire. Do-Yeon looked at her small team of designers. "General, we build cargo ships. We don't know how to make warships." "Then learn," Oh said bluntly. "Because if you can't, humanity dies." Work began immediately. The Luna shipyards expanded overnight as workers poured in from across the solar system. Factories that made furniture started producing armor plating. Plants that built air recyclers began manufacturing weapons systems. Do-Yeon barely slept for weeks. She designed ships unlike anything humans had ever built. The new Retribution-class dreadnoughts were massive, bristling with railguns and missile launchers. Instead of energy shields, they used thick armor made from materials the Kalari had never encountered. Intelligence operative Yoon-ji Yang brought crucial information from deep space. She had infiltrated Kalari territory using a disguised cargo ship, observing their worlds from a distance. "They're overextended," she reported to General O. "The Empire covers dozens of star systems, but their fleet is spread thin. They rely on fear and superior technology to control their territory." O studied her reconnaissance photos. "How many ships do they have?" "Maybe 300 total, but they're scattered. The largest concentration is at their homeworld, about 50 ships." "Weaknesses?" Yang smiled grimly. "They've been winning so long they've forgotten how to lose. Their tactics haven't changed in centuries, and they think humans are primitive savages who can't threaten them." Meanwhile, weapons engineer Gi-hun Bae worked on solutions to Kalari technology. He studied every piece of their equipment captured. From destroyed human ships. Their plasma weapons are powerful but inefficient, he explained to Do Yan. They generate enormous heat. Our new armor can absorb that heat and actually grow stronger. What about their shields? Energy-based, like we thought. But they have blind spots. Gi-hun showed her a holographic display. The shields project from specific points on their hulls. Destroy those points, and the whole system fails. The work consumed everyone. Families saw their fathers and mothers only on video calls. Children grew up in daycare centers while their parents built instruments of vengeance. But nobody complained. The images from New Busan drove them all. Admiral Kong visited the shipyards regularly, watching the fleet take shape. The new ships were ugly compared to the sleek Kalari vessels. They looked like metal fortresses, covered in armor and bristling with weapons. Beautiful, he said, watching the first dreadnought launch from Luna's orbital dock. Du Yan wiped grease from her hands. They're not built for beauty, Admiral. They're built to kill aliens. Good. The Kalari value elegance and grace. They won't know what to do when they meet something that just wants to destroy them. The crews were volunteers, every one of them. Some had lost family on New Busan. Others came from colonies that lived in fear of Kalari attack. They trained for months, learning to operate weapons that could crack planets and armor that could stop energy beams. Ship Captain Yongsu Choi was typical of the volunteers. His sister Nari had died shortly after reaching Earth, her body too damaged by months in the escape pod. He requested command of the dreadnought Vengeance, one of the most powerful ships in the fleet. Why this ship? Admiral Kong asked during his interview. Because my sister died believing someone would make the Kalari pay, Yongsu replied. I want to be the one who proves her right. As the fleet neared completion, intelligence reports brought disturbing news. The Kalari were preparing for something big. Ship movements suggested they were massing for a major attack, possibly on Earth itself. How long until the fleet is ready? Kang asked Do-yeon. She looked at the construction schedules. 2 more weeks for the last ships, another month for full. Crew training. We don't have that long. The Kalari might move before then. Do-yeon nodded grimly. We launch with what we have. The crews will have to finish training on the way to battle. The night before departure, Kang stood in his office looking at star charts. Red lines showed Kalari territory, expanding like an infection toward human space. Blue markers indicated human worlds, some already gone dark. His aide brought the final. Casualty reports. New Busan, New Seoul, Haven Colony, Green World, New Tokyo. 5 worlds destroyed. 200,000 human beings dead. Families, children, dreams, all turned to ash by alien weapons. But the aliens had made a mistake. They thought humans were weak because they loved peace. They thought a peaceful species couldn't learn to hate. Tomorrow, the Armada of Retribution would prove them wrong. 200 ships built in rage and sorrow would carry human vengeance to the stars. The Kalari Empire had taught humanity a lesson about war. Now humanity would teach them about consequences. The Armada of Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Kalari territory like ghosts emerging from hell. 200 human warships appeared in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of alien stars. Admiral Sung-min. Kang stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching the tactical display. After months of preparation, the moment of reckoning had finally arrived. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, announced Tactical Officer So Ra-jun. Her voice was steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to do. Kang nodded to Communications Officer Kyung-ho An. Open a channel to every world in Kalari space. The message went out simultaneously to 50 Kalari worlds. Kang's image appeared on screens across an entire star empire, his words translated into their language. I am Admiral Sung-min Kang of the Earth Confederation Fleet. 6 months ago, your forces destroyed the human colony of New Busan and murdered 50,000 innocent people. We have come to demand justice. He paused, letting his words sink in across the Kalari Empire. Surrender Admiral Vorthak and his fleet for trial. Withdraw from all human territory. Pay reparations to the families of those you murdered. Do this, and we will discuss peace. Refuse, and face the consequences. The response came within hours. A Kalari admiral appeared on the communication screen, his 4 arms spread in what might have been amusement. "Primitive humans dare to threaten the mighty Kalari Empire. Your species has barely learned to leave your homeworld." "We learned enough," Kang replied coldly. "You have 1 day to consider our terms." The alien's black eyes gleamed. "We do not negotiate with inferior beings. Return to your small worlds, humans, before we decide to finish what Vorthak started." The screen went dark. Around the bridge, the human officers exchanged grim looks. They had hoped for surrender, but expected defiance. "Orders, Admiral?" asked Captain Haye Jin Shin. She commanded the fighter squadrons, and her brother had died on New Busan. "Prepare for battle," Kang ordered. "Target the fortress at Vexthon. Time to show them what primitives can do." The first battle began at dawn, Kalari time. The fortress of Vexthon hung in space above the system's 4th planet, a massive structure that had guarded the Empire's border for 1,000 years. 50 Kalari ships surrounded it, confident in their invincibility. Captain Dong Hyun Ko commanded the marine assault ship Hammer. He watched the enemy formation through his ship's sensors, noting how they arranged themselves in perfect military order. "Just like the intelligence report said," he told his Marines. "They fight by the book. Same formations their ancestors used." The Kalari opened fire first, brilliant plasma beams reaching across space toward the human fleet. The beams struck human ships and splashed harmlessly against adaptive armor that absorbed the energy. "Their turn," Ko muttered. Fire. The human response was devastating. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed. Missile launchers sent waves of kinetic warheads toward the enemy. The Kalari energy shields, designed to stop plasma and lasers, proved useless against simple mass and velocity. The first Kalari ship to die simply cracked apart as a railgun slug punched through its hull. Atmosphere vented into space, carrying alien bodies with it. "Impossible," transmitted a Kalari captain. "Your weapons are primitive. They cannot penetrate our defenses." Fighter pilot Haye Jin Shin smiled grimly as she guided her squadron through the enemy formation. "Primitive works," she said, targeting the shield generators on a Kalari cruiser. Her missiles struck the generator nodes, and the enemy ship's shields collapsed. Without protection, it fell quickly to concentrated fire from human dreadnoughts. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the fortress of Vexthon was debris floating in space. Every Kalari ship was destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost 2 ships and suffered minor damage to 6 others. Admiral Kong surveyed the wreckage and felt no satisfaction. This was just the beginning. News of the defeat spread across Kalari space like wildfire. For the first time in their history, the Empire had faced an enemy that could match their technology and exceed their determination. On the Kalari homeworld, panic gripped the government. Emergency sessions debated how to respond to this unexpected threat. "How is this possible?" demanded High Admiral Crexton. "Humans are barely spacefaring. Their ships should be no match for ours." Military analyst Vorthak, no relation to the destroyer of New Busan, studied the battle recordings. "Their technology is different from anything we've encountered. Kinetic weapons instead of energy. Passive armor instead of active shields. They've found ways to counter our advantages. What do you recommend?" "Immediate mobilization of the Grand Fleet. This threat must be eliminated before it spreads." But the humans weren't waiting for the Kalari to organize. The Armada of Retribution moved deeper into enemy territory, striking military targets with surgical precision. Unlike the Kalari, the humans showed mercy to civilians. When they captured alien colonies, they protected non-combatants and provided medical aid. This confused and frustrated the enemy, who expected humans to be as ruthless as themselves. Captain Yong-Soo Choi commanded the dreadnought Vengeance during the attack on the military base at Sektar. As Kalari ships fled the battle, his gunners prepared to fire on a damaged cruiser. "Wait," Choi ordered. "Scan that ship." "Minimal life signs," reported his tactical officer. "Mostly wounded. Let them go. We're here to destroy their military, not commit murder." The damaged Kalari ship limped away, carrying news of human mercy to other worlds. This act of compassion did more damage to Kalari morale than a dozen military victories. "They're not savages," reported the cruiser's captain to his superiors. "They fight with honor. They show mercy to the defeated." This revelation shook the Empire's foundations. The Kalari had told themselves that humans were primitive animals that deserved extermination. If humans showed more honor than the Kalari themselves, what did that make the Empire? Some Kalari worlds began to question the war. Others prepared desperate defenses. Still others sent secret messages to human ships, asking about terms for surrender. Admiral, Kang read these messages with mixed feelings. Each victory brought them closer to justice for New Busan, but he took no joy in the destruction of an entire civilization. Marine Commander In-ho Seo brought word from the captured base at Sektar. "We found evidence of other attacks, Admiral. The Kalari have destroyed 12 species in the last century. Billions of beings all wiped out for the crime of existing in Kalari space." Kang felt his resolve harden. New Busan wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern of genocide that stretched back generations. Any survivors from these other species? A few. Kept as slaves or curiosities, they're asking to join our fleet. Kang considered this. The war had begun as human vengeance for human dead. But perhaps it could become something more. Perhaps they could bring justice for all the Kalari's victims. Tell them they're welcome, he decided. Anyone who wants to fight against genocide has a place with us. As the human fleet continued its advance, the Kalari Empire began to collapse from within. Worlds that had been conquered by force started to rebel. Species that had been enslaved rose up against their masters. The message was clear. The age of Kalari dominance was ending. A new power had entered the galaxy, one that fought not for conquest, but for justice. Admiral Vorthok, the destroyer of New Busan, watched the reports from his flagship above the Kalari homeworld. His perfect military record was being shattered by creatures he had dismissed as primitives. "Prepare the Grand Fleet," he ordered. "We will meet these humans at Kalar Prime and end this threat once and for all." But even as he gave the order, Vorthok felt uncertainty creep into his mind. The humans had proven they could fight. The question now was whether the Kalari could win. The human Armada of Retribution arrived at Kalar Prime to find the entire Kalari Grand Fleet waiting for them. 300 alien ships hung in space above their home world, arranged in a massive defensive formation. Admiral Sungmin Kang studied the enemy fleet from the bridge of the Indomitable. This was it. The final battle that would decide the fate of both species. "They've gathered everything they have," observed Tactical Officer Sora Jun. "Every ship in their empire is here." "Good," Kang replied grimly. "We can finish this in one battle." Communications Officer Kyung-ho An received an incoming transmission. "Admiral, we're being hailed by their flagship." The main screen filled with the image of Admiral Vorthok, the destroyer of New Busan. His 4 arms were spread wide in a gesture of challenge, his black eyes burning with hatred. "So the primitive humans have come to die at the heart of the Empire," Vorthok sneered. "I am Admiral Vorthok, destroyer of worlds, conqueror of species. I offer you one chance to surrender and die quickly." Kang stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. "I am Admiral Sungmin Kang. I don't negotiate with murderers of children." Vorthok's expression shifted. For the first time, he seemed to truly see the human before him. "You blame me for New Busan? Those colonists refused to leave Kalari territory. Their deaths were necessary. Their deaths were genocide," Kang replied. "And today, genocide ends." Vorthok laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the communication system. "You think your primitive ships can defeat the Grand Fleet? I have 300 vessels against your 200. "Numbers aren't everything," Kang said. "But since you seem concerned about fair fights, I propose single combat. Your flagship against mine. Winner takes all." The alien admiral's eyes gleamed with interest. "You would stake everything on one battle? I would stake everything on justice." Vorthok considered this. In Kalari culture, single combat was the highest form of honor. If he won, the humans would be forced to surrender. If he lost, but he couldn't lose. His ship was the largest and most powerful in the fleet. "Agreed," Vorthok declared. "When I crush your ship, the surviving humans will serve the Empire as slaves." "When you lose," Kang replied. "The Kalari Empire surrenders unconditionally." Both fleets moved apart, creating a vast arena in space above Kalar Prime. 2 ships, faced each other across the void. Vorthak's massive dreadnought Eternal Dominance and Kang's smaller but heavily armed Indomitable. Captain Yongsu Choi watched from the bridge of the Vengeance. His sister Nari had died, believing someone would make the Kalari pay for New Busan. Now that moment had arrived. Marine Commander Inho Seo stood ready with his assault teams, prepared to board the alien flagship if their admiral won. Weapons. Officer Sung-Hwan Park, whose family had died on New Busan, checked his targeting systems one final time. The duel began without ceremony. Vorthak fired first, massive plasma cannons sending beams of destruction toward the human ship. The energy struck the Indomitable's armor and was absorbed, the heat dissipating through specially designed cooling systems. Kang's response was swift and brutal. Railguns fired solid slugs at incredible velocity, punching through the Kalari. Shields like they weren't there. The alien ship shuddered under the impact but remained intact. "Impossible," Vorthak snarled. "Our shields are impenetrable." "Your shields stop energy," Kang explained calmly. "We're using mass." The battle became a deadly dance in space. The Kalari ship was larger and more maneuverable, darting around the human vessel while firing plasma beams. But every shot was absorbed by human armor, while every human shot that connected caused devastating damage. Vorthak grew desperate. He had never faced an enemy that could match Kalari technology. His weapons, which had destroyed countless species, seemed useless against human defenses. "You fight without honor," he accused. "Your weapons are primitive, your tactics crude." "We fight to win," Kang replied. "Honor doesn't bring back the dead." The Eternal Dominance tried ramming tactics, using its superior size to crush the human ship. But the Indomitable was built for war, its hull reinforced with materials the Kalari had never encountered. The collision damaged both ships, but left the human vessel still fighting. "Admiral," reported damage control, "forward armor is compromised, but all weapons remain operational." Kang nodded. "Target their command section. End this." The final exchange lasted seconds. Human railguns, firing in perfect coordination, struck the alien flagship's bridge. The Eternal Dominance went dark, drifting powerless through space. Vorthak's final transmission was weak, barely audible. "Impossible," he whispered. "We are the master race. We cannot be defeated by primitives." "You were never the master race," Kang replied. "You were just bullies who had never met anyone willing to fight back." The alien admiral died without another word, his ship breaking apart as internal explosions tore through its hull. A moment of silence filled space above Kalar Prime. 300 Kalari ships hung motionless, their crews stunned by the impossible sight of their greatest admiral's defeat. Then, one by one, the alien ships began powering down their weapons. The surrender came without fanfare, transmitted on all frequencies. The Kalari Empire yields to the human fleet. Admiral Kang felt no triumph, only exhaustion. The war was over, but victory felt hollow when bought with so much death. Diplomatic. Attaché Haewon Kim handled the surrender negotiations. The terms were harsh, but fair. The Empire would disband its military forces, pay reparations to all victims of their aggression, and submit to human oversight until they proved they could coexist peacefully with other species. "These terms will destroy our civilization," protested the surviving Kalari leadership. "Your civilization was built on genocide," Kim replied. "It deserves to be destroyed." But Kang intervened with more moderate terms. The Kalari would keep their worlds and their government, but under strict supervision. They would help rebuild the species they had destroyed, provide aid to their former victims, and learn to live without conquest. "Why show mercy?" asked Captain Choi. "They showed none to New Busan." "Because someone has to break the cycle," Kang replied. "If we become like them, then they win." The memorial ceremony took place on the ruins of New Busan. The planet was still a wasteland of glass and ash, but human engineers had built a monument where the capital city once stood. Captain Yongsu Choi stood before his sister's grave, reading the inscription aloud. "Nari Choi, Communications Officer, New Busan Colony. She died so others would remember." Around him, thousands of graves marked the resting places of the dead. Children, farmers, teachers, dreamers, all killed for the crime of existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. They thought we were weak because we preferred peace, Choi said to the memorial wall. They learned the difference between choosing peace and being capable of war. As the human fleet prepared to return home, refugees from a dozen extinct species asked to join the exodus. The Kalari had destroyed their worlds, but humanity offered them new homes among the stars. What now? Asked Admiral Kang as he watched the mixed fleet depart Kalari space. Now we go home, replied his aide. The war is over. Kang nodded, but kept his eyes on the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns. Somewhere out there, other bullies might be terrorizing peaceful species. Other new Buzans might be dying while their killers assumed no one would come for justice. But they would. Be wrong. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. Humanity was peaceful by choice, not weakness. And those who mistook kindness for vulnerability would face the consequences. The Armada of Retribution had completed its mission. Justice for New Busan was done. But the watch over the galaxy's innocent would never end. Behind them, on Kalar Prime, the former empire began the long process of learning to live without conquest. It would take generations, but perhaps their children would understand what the humans had tried to teach them. That true strength came not from destroying others, but from protecting them. The age of Kalari dominance was over. The age of human guardianship had begun.